record, and you will have 3 minutes to address the commission. If you've previously sent pictures or a presentation for the meeting, they will be displayed on the screen and our city clerk will help you run the presentation. If you've established you are speaking on the behalf of a larger group like an HOA, where others from that group will allow you to speak on their behalf, you will have up to 10 minutes. After all those who've signed up in advance have spoken, we invite anyone else in chambers or on Zoom to testify. If you wish to speak on a topic, you may come forward in chambers, or if on Zoom, press the raise hand button. Or if you're only listening on a telephone, please press *9 and your name will be called. If you're listening on multiple devices, such as a computer and a phone, please be sure to mute those extra devices so we do not experience feedback and we can hear you clearly. When you're finished, if the commission does not have questions for you, you will return to your seat in chambers or be muted on Zoom and no longer have the ability to speak. And please remember, we will not call on you a second time. After all testimony has been heard, the applicant will be given another 10 minutes to come back and respond. When the applicant is finished responding to questions and concerns, we will close the public hearing and the commissioners will have the opportunity to discuss and hopefully make final recommendations to City Council or decisions as needed. With that, we will start with item number 2, H 2026-0004, Live Well at 3175 North 10 Mile Road for a modified development agreement and conditional use permit for animal care facility. And commissioners, we are the recommending body for this because there's a modified development agreement. So this will go to council. Okay. We'll start with staff report.
Good evening, commissioners. So this is an application for a conditional use permit and development agreement of modification. This site consists of 1.164 acres of land zoned LO and is located at 3175 North 10 Mile. In 2021, a request to rezone the property from R4 to the LO district was approved. The request was made per the provisions within the Meridian Comprehensive Plan for the purpose of constructing a 10,000 square foot office building in lieu of residential development and a development agreement modification to replace the existing agreement and enter into a new agreement to develop the site consistent with the proposed development plan. Council granted the office use / zoning per the provisions outlined in the comprehensive plan. Again, this application is the modification to the existing development agreement to include an animal care facility as an allowed use, as the current development agreement limits the uses to professional services, personal services, and healthcare and social services. As for the animal care facility, a conditional use permit is required is required to be approved for this use. Access to the property is from Eustick Road, which shall be an entrance only, and appropriate signage and striping to inform patrons that this is not an exit for the site, excuse me. The applicant will need to work with ACHD on any allowed curbing within the right-of-way to help ensure this access is for ingress only. And on 10 Mile, this shall be right in and right out only. The applicant has stated that the business hours for this will be 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday and Saturday 12 to 6 p.m. In this district, in the LO and CN districts, business hours are restricted from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. unless otherwise through a conditional use permit. We will be requiring the applicant to operate within the hours that they provided. So the existing DA required the applicant to provide a 30-foot landscape buffer along these parcels as part of the provisions of the DA. So the applicant provided, as you can see on the landscape plan, this is what they provided. As far as specific use standards for animal care facility, all animals shall be indoors at all times except for when being exercised, and at such times animals shall be under the supervisions and direct control of the caretaker. The applicant has an outdoor area that shows the location where dogs will be able to go and relieve themselves, and they will have a caretaker with them at all times. And if they don't have a caretaker that is available to go with them, they have an area inside where the dogs can relieve themselves. So they have to comply with all the specific use standards for this. And they will need to work with Republic when they go in for their certificate of zoning compliance to determine the exact location for their garbage containers. This is a floor plan for their office. So they did provide conceptual elevations. And again, a certificate of zoning compliance and design review will be required for this application. And they'll have to meet the design standards of required by the city. And again, I don't know if this is the same type of facility that is located off of Eagle Road behind Take 5 next to Raising Cane. This appears to be the exact replica of that building, if you haven't seen it. For the square footage that they are proposing, they are required to have 8 parking spaces. But they provided 43, so they exceed their parking requirements. There were no written testimonies for this application, so staff is recommending approval of the proposed CUP as we find it in compliance with the comprehensive plan and the UDCs with the conditions that are included in our staff report, and we recommend approval of the modification to the development agreement to include animal care facility as an allowed use. And at this time, I'll be happy to take any questions you have.
Would the applicant like to come forward?
Thank you. Chad Jones. My address is 1119 East State Street, Suite 120, Eagle, Idaho,
Okay.
representing ALC Architecture. We concur in its entirety with the staff recommendations, any of the conditions or requirements that they presented within their staff report. That's really all I have. I will stand for any other questions if you have any.
The other location on Eagle Road, how long has that been in operation?
Oh, shoot. I have no idea. Can you help me with
A
that?
year, 6 months, 2 months? I mean, is it brand
Yes,
spanking
it's fairly new. I'm going to introduce.
Neil Neesmith. I'm with Mission Pet Health, which is the owner of the facility here. So 417 Devon Drive, Birmingham, Alabama. The location on the Eagle Road is not yet open. We've passed certificate of occupancy, so we'll be occupying that space in the next 30 days or so. But that building is complete from the exterior, and to your point, yes, it will be a pretty much replica of that building. And was there this afternoon. It turned out really well and very attractive for the neighborhood.
Are these the only 2 locations you have in the Treasure Valley?
So Mission Pet Health owns a number of locations across the country. And so I think in the greater Boise area, we own about 10 different animal hospitals. So we operate those under independent names. The Live Well Animal Hospital is our new animal hospital brand that we're opening under a singular brand. And so we've got across the country 35 to 40 of those and continue to scale those across the country.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant? All right, thank you very much. Madam Clerk, do we have anyone signed up to testify?
Thank you, Madam Chair. No one has signed up and no one online has their hand raised.
Gentlemen, did you have any other comments before we close the public hearing? Are you good? All right, may I get a motion to close the public hearing, please?
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded to close the public hearing for application 2026-0004 Live Well. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. This is a challenging corner because of the roadway. The way the roadways have just kind of evolved over the years. If the applicant is fine with the right in, right out, and the neighbors are good. I think that 30-foot buffer will definitely mitigate any kind of noises. I know when, but this is an animal hospital as opposed to, boarding. So I know my dog always ended up in what they called the choir room because he was always a barker, but you know, it's a nice small space that could definitely have a niche, product there that, you know, would definitely, add to our community. So I'm in support of this. Any
Madam
other-
Chair, I agree. It's also good, a perfect use for a wood. Sorry, I thought I had it on. I agree. I think this is also a good, relatively low volume use,
Right.
that also can give a complimentary service for the local residents. I think this is great.
I'm supportive of the application. I think as you pointed out, the corner is challenging from a transportation standpoint, but it's probably also why it's attractive. So.
Right.
As anybody on the Parks Commission will say and testify, I've always been a huge dog person and I'm always interested to see the growth in that sector. Also in favor of the application, will echo your comments as well, Madam Chair. As just a point of clarification, I don't want to assume, but being that you brought up the topic, so with the hours of operation being what they've established, we're assuming that there is no overnight boarding in this particular, will not be overnight boarding in this particular facility? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, just a hospital.
Perfect.
All right, after considering all staff, applicant and public testimony, I move to recommend file number H 2026-004 as presented in the staff report for the hearing date of June 18th, 2026, with no modifications to go on to city council.
Second.
It's been moved and second to approve Live Well. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much, gentlemen. The next item up is file number H 2026-0017, requests a conditional use permit for 7 Brew Coffee at 3570 East Fairview. We are the deciding body for this conditional use permit, and it is a tier 2. We'll start with the staff report.
Good evening again. So this site consists of 0.64 acres of land. It's zone CG, and it is located at 3570 East Fairview Avenue. The site was annexed in 2007 and subdivided in 2011 as part of the Central Cal subdivision. With the annexation application, a development agreement was approved and a concept plan consistent with the building location as proposed. The subject site is among a wide range of commercial uses in the Central Cal subdivision, which is the village at Meridian and surrounding area near the intersection of Fairview Avenue and Eagle Road. The proposed use as a restaurant with a drive-through aligns with the desired uses specified in the mixed-use regional designation in the comprehensive plan in conjunction with the already approved retail, restaurants, recreation facilities, et cetera, in the broader area. The proposed use satisfies the general mixed-use regional future land use destination for this area. So again, this is considered a tier 2 drive-through and it requires the conditional use permit. So the applicant is proposing a 910 square foot drive-through restaurant designed to accommodate 7 vehicles in the stacking lane. They have indicated the intended hours of operations are from 5 a.m. to 11 p.m., 7 days a week, with the possibility of going 24/7 if the demand is there for extended hours of operation. In addition, the applicant has indicated that 7 Brew typically has 10 to 15 employees per shift, which an average of 400 customers per day. The applicant's narrative states that their business model of using runners instead of a traditional menu board for ordering will speed up the process and prevent queuing from backing up into the drive aisles and roads. They have provided 3 parking stalls, but are part of a shared parking agreement for the village at Meridian. So staff in the Meridian Police Department expressed concerns about the overflow stacking. As a result, the applicant provided a transportation study from a Seven Brew location in Santa Rosa, California. This provided data showing approximately 77 vehicle trips per hour. In addition, they included a queuing data for 12 similar Seven Brew locations, which show the average maximum queue of 7.4 vehicles per lane, with wait times varying based on employee count at each location. The applicant also indicated in the event of an emergency that they would have customers go into the escape lane. However, they do not anticipate needing this regularly. If this becomes a regular occurrence, the applicant will need to apply for a Tier 3 drive-through establishment, which means that they will have to go before city council. So the applicant submitted conceptual building elevations for the proposed structure, but building materials consist of stucco, stone veneer, aluminum panels, and glazing. The conceptual building elevations appear to meet the guidelines set forth in the Architectural Standard Manual. The final building design will be subject to commercial design guidelines and will be reviewed with the design review application. There were no written testimonies for this, and staff is recommending approval of the proposed CUP application and find it in conformance with the comp plan, UDC, and conditions included in section 4 and 5, and findings in section 5. And at this time, I will stand for any questions you have.
Would the applicant like to come forward, please?
Madam Chair, we have Sandra Fox online.
Hi, Ms. Fox, if you can state your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, ma'am. My name is Sandra Fox. I am with Core States Group, and the address is 409 Pine Street, Klamath Falls, Oregon, 97601. My name is Sandra, as I stated, and we are working with Seven Brew. We are the consultants for Seven Brew on this project, and we understand that the queuing is a concern. As was stated by staff, we have provided information that at one of our busier locations, we are able to accommodate the amount of traffic at that time. The staff is willing to take traffic and put it into the queuing lane. Apologies, my computer was glitching. So we are willing to use that bypass lane as a queuing lane if need be. We do not anticipate the need to do so. We also have the ability to stack additional cars within the parking lot should those parking stalls be vacant. So we are not proposing to block any of the parking stalls that are used. And we will have staff outside if we have too many vehicles to accommodate in the queue. I'm happy to answer any questions. We are very much looking forward to being in the city and opening up the store.
Currently, do you have any stores that are 24 hours?
We do not on the West Coast.
Okay, and then there is no place to go inside for customers, right? It's drive-through only?
Correct. It is an extremely small store. It is drive up only, and there is no public space.
Okay. Commissioner Smith,
Madam
did you
Chair.
have some questions for the applicant?
Yeah, so quick question, for that busier location that you cited, how many cars do those stacking lanes accommodate?
Ooh, that is a very good question. Let me see off the top of my 12.
12, okay. A question for staff. So we're talking about this is a tier 2. If it becomes a regular issue of them having to use that second lane, they'd have to apply for a tier 3. What if that tier 3 gets denied? Do they lose their license to do business in the city? Or what is the mechanism by which you enforce that?
Madam Chair, members of the commission, couple distinctions here. So one, when we changed the code, the applicant could, if they go from a tier 2 to a tier 3, that is a new conditional use permit, which would come to you as a recommending body and then go on to city council for review for their decision. The other part of the code, the change is if they do use that second lane, then they lose their escape lane and no longer meet the standards of the code as well, which would also trigger a conditional use permit modification. So they could get denied, and then they would have the right to operate under tier 2, and they couldn't use that extra drive-through lane except for an escape lane only. So the mechanism would be a condition that says you can't do that, or we revoke their condition of approval until they correct the violation. That's usually how it works.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Smith?
is there anything around that? So it sounds like if they use a solution to a problem too much, we prevent them from being able to use the solution. That doesn't get rid of the problem. So if they do have overflow into the rest of the lot, is there any penalty for that?
Madam Chair, members of the commission, not necessarily. Really the intent behind drive-throughs is that you're not impeding traffic through circulation through the development. So even if they were to stack a little bit in drive aisles, there's many ways to get through that commercial development. It wouldn't halt. It wouldn't have vehicles backing up or stacking up on Fairview. That's really the major roadway there. That's what we're trying to prevent, is vehicles from stacking on the main drive aisle as you turn off of Fairview into the site. So if they can contain it on site, they can move customers to designated parking spaces, or they intermittently use that other lane to kind of help move along at peak hours, probably going to be fine. Keep in mind, the code only requires that they accommodate up to 6 vehicles. That's the minimum standard, and they're saying they can accommodate up to 7. So they already exceed what the minimum code required is for stacking lane.
Madam Chair?
Commissioner Smith?
Question for the applicant. Do you have an idea of, I guess, what your, the curve of your daily volume looks like? What are your peak hours? I guess, do you have an idea of what percentage of your traffic comes through, say, after 6 p.m., after 8 p.m., anything like that?
Our peak hours are in the morning, so it is the coffee crowd, and then in the evening. So we would not be competing necessarily with the hours of operation of those visiting the retail stores or the In-N-Out Burger. We will also have, I believe, approximately 75% of bypass traffic. So traffic that is already traveling either to these businesses or along Fairview is how we are accommodating our customers. So it's not that we are creating 100% new traffic for the area, and our hours are usually opposite or conducive to other businesses in the shopping center.
Madam Chair?
Commissioner Smith?
Just to follow up on that, I asked because there's discussion of potentially, if there's enough demand, of becoming 24 hours. So it seems to me that there's some data somewhere showing that you have enough sales in the PM hours to potentially justify having staff. I'm curious if you could just elaborate a little bit more on, and I don't need specific numbers, but a ballpark or an idea of what percentage or what amount of, I know it's not the majority, but what amount of your traffic comes in maybe the afternoon or evening hours?
Because this is a new West Coast brand, and we're I don't want to say we're testing the market, but essentially we are. So to answer that question, the anticipation is that the evening hours, the later evening hours, are going to be weekend oriented or during events. I do not have, and I apologize, I do not have a percentage, but if I were to guess, and I might get fired for this, but I'm going to guess, I would say probably 70% is going to be morning and evening combined, so that there are extreme highs, and then the midday is much lower. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Gelsomino?
a quick question for the applicant. Sandra, so when going to the discussion of the escape lane, when a vehicle uses the escape lane, can full through traffic still circulate around the building simultaneously? Or does that vehicle block the private drive aisle?
That vehicle would block that private drive aisle. So as was stated by staff, we do have the opportunity to stack in the shopping center drive aisles, as well as request those customers to park in a parking stall. So that if we have a large order and to not block that queuing lane, we may ask them to park and we will bring their drinks and their order out to them. The intent is not to use that bypass lane for stacking. It is almost an emergency situation that it very well may be used on opening day during the quote honeymoon period of a new store coming to town, but it is not the intent to use it on a daily basis.
Understood. Thank you.
Question for staff. For this conditional use permit, how, is it 2 years? How long is the permit valid?
So, Madam Chair, members of the commission, they have up to 2 years to commence the use, but the CUP runs with the land unless they cease the use for a year and then they have to start over.
Okay, I didn't hear all that. So they have 2 years to act on the conditional use permit and then what?
And then it runs with the land, so it remains in place in perpetuity unless another use goes in there or it ceases for a year, up to
Okay.
12 months.
I guess I'm just trying to understand, like, what's the mechanism from the city to say it goes from tier 2 to tier 3? Is that from code enforcement to say, hey, this is a little bit more crazy than we thought it would be, and they need to be able to go back in front of council? Or, because once it leaves the planning process, right, and they build and they're open, what mechanisms do the city have to put that condition on saying, we're going to move you from tier 2 to tier 3?
Yeah, Madam Chair, members of the commission, it would be a complaint-driven action by either code enforcement or somebody at the citizen per se, and then they would go out and investigate it. And if cars were actually stacking and orders were being taken from the escape lane, then they would be notified that they're in violation and they need a CUP.
Okay.
And they would, if they want to do that, so the way they could remedy the violation is either not use it and go back to the original conditions of approval, or apply for that tier 3 conditional use permit and ask you and the council if it's appropriate to allow a second drive-through lane.
So Sandra, the reason why we say this, have you been to the site personally?
I have not, so I have only been Google Earth and some photos.
So the Village of Meridian is a relatively newish shopping destination, and it continues to grow. And I understand exactly why you want to be there as well as the other outside businesses of this. But the interior of the parking, what you're going to be competing with is, in the evenings, you'll be competing with In-N-Out, but during the day, you'll be also competing with health club, that, and it gets pretty gnarly in there at times. And there are occasions where there's just not enough parking for the people who go visit this destination of shopping, dining, eating, and playing, and all that kind of thing. And that could really impede your circulation for your business. And I think that is the concern of this commission, is that, we look at connectivity, we look at safety, we look at making sure that, we're not getting people agitated because they just want a cup of coffee. And so that's one of the reasons why we're asking all these questions, is because you are in a high traffic area, which is great visibility for this new brand. And I'm sure that coffee lovers will, flock to this, but you're also going into a high volume In-N-Out and the Village all stacked on top of each other. So those are our concerns. Is it your long-term intention to possibly do this 24 hours? Or are you really on the West Coast looking at that 11 p.m., closing time?
Thank you for making those statements and clarifying that for me. Right now, we are just looking at the 11 PM and the market will dictate that 24 hours. So the request would be that if market dictates, that we would like to be able to do 24 hours. That being said, sorry.
Go ahead.
The difference between a Seven Brew and an In-N-Out, and I know you did not compare them, is the level of service and the quickness of service. Because we are not cooking food, we are not preparing food. It is a quick drink order that is immediately transferred to the kitchen. Our service times are extremely quick, and so we move traffic through very rapidly. Completely understand, and you are correct. That is why we would like to be there, is because the majority of our traffic is bypass traffic. And if you're going to the gym or from the gym, we would love to have you as a customer. So there is a synergy, but I also understand the commission's concern about a conflict. I don't know if I answered your question.
You did. Your early morning hours are fine because In-N-Out doesn't even open till 10 or 11 in the morning. So you'll be able to do fine. You'll be competing with the health club more than anything else. And even the stores in the village don't really even open till 11 AM. So there is that window of opportunity. But it is a very, very busy parking lot. And, you know, if everybody's going every which way direction, there may be days where they might not even be able to get to the Cube until a few people move out of the way. That's how busy this particular parking lot can get. I can't confirm or deny that that actually happens early in the morning when you be open, but that is going to be one of the challenges that you will face. All right. Commissioners, do we have any other questions for Sandra?
Sandra, what for the East Coast cities or metro areas where you have 24-hour service, what's the population size generally of those metro areas?
I am going to look that up. But I did want to let you know that Seven Brew does have some other potential sites coming. And we are, so essentially we would cannibalize off of this store to locate another store within the city. I would say 25% of our sites are 24-hour. And population-wise, I'm still looking. Apologies. I want to say, and I have somebody else online trying to help me out. I want to say about 75,000.
Okay.
All right. Any other comments before we take public testimony, Sandra?
No, I am hoping that I answered all of your questions. And like I said, your concerns are valid. We deal with traffic at our other sites and we want to be a good neighbor. And so we will work with whomever is on site or with city to ensure that we don't cause issues for the other tenants.
Okay, thank you very much. Madam Clerk, do we have anyone signed up to testify?
Thank you, Madam Chair. No one has signed up and no one online is raising their hand.
Any other final thoughts, Sandra, before we close the public hearing?
No, thank you very much. Staff has been wonderful to work with. We know that it's difficult to have a new tenant that can bring traffic, but the conversations have been very helpful.
Okay, thank you very much.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner
I
Smith?
do have one question. I'm just been
one more
ruminating on
question.
before we close the public hearing. Sandra, you mentioned cannibalization from other stores. I'm trying to square the circle between bypass traffic being the main driver and other stores cannibalizing traffic from here. There's a little bit of, are the stores a drawing point? How much of a drawing point versus how much bypass traffic? I know we said the majority is bypass traffic that you're expecting. Is that 51%? Is that 90%? Again, I don't need exact specifics, but those two statements seem kind of contradictory to me. I'm trying to understand.
They do approximately between 75 and 90% at some of our stores, depending on the access. So if it's a full signalized intersection, we usually will have more bypass traffic. This is right in, right out, immediately adjacent, but there are other avenues to access the site. So we are estimating approximately 75% bypass traffic at this site. That being said, that honeymoon period is when it is a complete draw. It is something new. And if we are to locate another store elsewhere, we are not necessarily creating new customers, but some of those customers will bypass. So these stores can be located fairly close together. And so some of those customers that were bypass traffic at our original store will be bypass traffic at our second store. And so that's where that cannibalization comes in of which store are they going to go to.
Thank you.
Can I get a motion to close the public hearing, please?
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded to close this public hearing for 7 Brew Coffee. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Smith.
I'll start off by saying I agree. I actually go to the gym in question that's right here. And I agree. I'm not concerned about morning hours per se. And I agree personally. I'm a big coffee guy. I'd love to be a customer, but I just really am struggling to make the math work out here. I understand this is a tier 2 and this meets tier 2 standards. However, I don't know that it fits the spirit of what a tier 2 is. To use an analogy, if Chick-fil-A came in and put in one drive lane and all the tier 2 kind of accommodations in substance, I don't think that would magically render it, tier 2 levels of traffic. I also don't know that a business plans to put that much capital down for new stores if they don't anticipate creating new customers and creating some sort of draw. And so I understand that this is a new brand. I understand it's new to the West Coast. It's an interesting competitor in the space. But you look at some of the businesses that it's competing with, and they have 16, 20 lanes. And so I don't know that you get to a tier 2 justification just because you're resourcing the establishment less. And I think especially my concern is around midday and after. It's not a substitute product for versus In-N-Out, so it's not competing directly, but it is competing with traffic, especially in the evenings. You go to In-N-Out, even if In-N-Out directly is not, even if the drive-through line at In-N-Out is not busy, especially in the summertime, especially during spring break, it has become a third space for young people in Meridian, which I'm all for third spaces, but that can be a very dangerous corner. Dangerous part of the parking lot. So I would love to see 7 Brew in Meridian. I'm not even inherently opposed to it at this location, but right now I don't know that the concept has been proven out that this can sustain with just seven spots or 7 stacking slots for cars. And I really just am made uncomfortable by the lack of enforcement that the city has. It seems like our only recourse is to take away a potential solution to traffic overflow and not actually enforce, better traffic flow. So I don't think I can support it at this time. I think I'll have to oppose. I think there are too many questions that continuance couldn't answer. I would encourage the applicant to keep looking at locations in Meridian. Again, we love having new business. I just don't know that this application at this time, at this location is the right fit.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Gelsomino.
I share a lot of my fellow commissioners, Commissioner Smith's sentiments. I also use the gym facility at the Villa Sport, particularly in the evening. I can't speak for the morning times either. I agree, it does meet the standards of a tier 2 application. My concerns are also all transportation related. The applicant's comments of the business providing quick service, that is great. I'm glad that in their business models and in their stores throughout the geographical mapping of where their other stores are located, they have seen quick service. My concern is that and I'm going to assume because I want to imagine Dutch Bros style, it's going to be staffed mostly by younger adults. And there are days if their friends pass by in the drive-through, they'll want to chat and talk, and then service isn't going to be as quick. That parking lot, especially as Commissioner Smith stated, with In-N-Out, also a younger crowd, it's going to be even more crowded as our valley and our city continues to grow and population grows with the consistent growth in people moving here. I just, it's the one consistent concern of not only this commission or not only the citizens of this city, but many others who do business and work here and live here, is the traffic and the congestion. So, as pro-business as I am and welcoming as I am to new businesses bringing their business here to the city of Meridian, I do also have those concerns and will oppose this application for now.
Okay.
Madam Chair, can I interject just for a moment? I just want to sort of give two thoughts to the commission on this, and that's certainly your prerogative too. I think we're kind of looking at this as sort of one of two choices, approve or deny, but I just want to raise two thoughts with you. One is you also have the ability to add or modify conditions to address concerns you might have. So I'd encourage the commission to look at the conditions being proposed by staff. That's in section 4 of your staff report. So if there's a way, that's a third option, is rather to say yay or nay, it is to either modify conditions or add conditions that might address your concerns. And then related, that's period. The next thought is related to that. However, I just want to remind you under state law that if the commission does ultimately deny the CUP, which is your prerogative to do so, we also have a legal obligation to tell the applicant, here's what you could do to bring back a project that would be approvable. So, so I'd encourage you to think about conditions in both those contexts. One is that might be a third option available tonight, but even if you deny the application, we need to be able to articulate what could the applicant do to bring back an application that would be acceptable and comply with the city's code. Thank you.
Good thoughts. Would you like to weigh in on this?
Sure.
Sorry, Madam Chair, if I could just maybe piggyback on some of legal's comments. Certainly appreciate the conversation, understand the traffic impacts. We know that Fairview and Eagle Road is what the second or first busiest intersection in the state now. It's getting close anyways. It's up there. We understand those transportation challenges. Would just want to reemphasize for the commission that the project as proposed or presented does meet code. So I just want to be clear on that. It does meet a tier 1, or excuse me, a tier 2 drive-through standards. Looking at the staff report and kind of piggybacking on some of legal's comments, there is a condition of approval where staff has requested the applicant provide us a stacking exhibit. They need to demonstrate if they do have more than 7 vehicles, how are they going to address that? How are they going to make that up on the site? So that's something that staff has already conditioned as part of the CUP. However, we've conditioned it at CZC level and not your level. So certainly if that's something you want to continue this application to say, hey, we have concerns with your stacking, how are you going to impact site circulation? We can continue your application and then you can demonstrate us how this is going to work if you do go over that 7 and still not violate city code or end up putting people into that exit lane. I know staff has been part of a lot of these high-capacity drive-throughs, and I know that I understand there's going to be a buzz around this, and there's going to be traffic when it first opens. As we know, over time, it kind of diminishes because there's either more openings or people will just get used to it, and it just kind of works itself out. But there has been cases where we've had applicants work with the police department and figure out ways that we can control traffic and have it push traffic through areas, and that's what happened with the Raising Cane site. So that we have some abilities to add conditions and maybe mitigate some of your concerns, but certainly happy to, at least I want to give you some of that information as you deliberate on this application, because again, we're happy to sit down with the applicant again and maybe bring back something that gives you some assurances that it could potentially work or address some of the concerns that I've heard with site circulation, access, traffic, and maybe even competing hours of operation. Currently, I would mention there are no restrictions on hours of operation for the store. So that is something that you could also require as part of your purview, is add a condition of approval that they operate between certain hours of the day as well to minimize some of those concerns.
So, Madam Chair,
Oh,
before I go into my, not rant, but anyway, stating my opinion, can I ask a clarification question from Bill? So Bill, you said that staff has requested a diagram or a traffic flow, whatever, however you want to phrase it, as part of the application, or just that you said that we'd like to review it if this is approved?
Well, this thing doesn't stay on. Madam Chair, members of the commission. So the condition reads, applicant shall submit an overflow stacking exhibit to show where additional cars will be placed if stacking exceeds the 7 cars proposed. So under the ordinance, you have the ability to say if your stacking lane can accommodate the vehicles, then you have to dedicate certain spots for overflow traffic to pull into parking stalls, and they can walk those out to the customers. So we don't have those details for you tonight, but the code does, one of the provisions we wrote into the drive-through standards did state that we could require that. And I think that's where staff landed. We have the police department having concerns. Staff is kind of on the fence with the 7, although it does meet the tier 2, it meets the requirements of 6 or more. But again, if there's parking and they're able to have some dedicated spots on site for overflow of the drive-through, then maybe that helps you guys understand how it can work in those high traffic periods.
Thank
I
you,
don't know
Bill.
if that addresses your concerns, but it may, if you can see there's 3 or 4 spots where customers can pull forward and they can
Madam-
deliver the goods and move forward. But
Madam Chair, just for echo all that 100%, and just for clarity, Bill talked about this earlier. He didn't reemphasize it this last comment, but right now, the way that condition is worded is you would be approving the CUP if you went down that path, and then staff would ask for that prior to the certificate of zoning compliance. As Bill mentioned a few minutes back, a different way to do that is you may want to see that before you make your decision. And so perhaps that's an alternative, is to continue the hearing, get that information, and then you want to be the decision maker instead of having that come later after you've already approved a conditional use permit. So I just want to reemphasize that as another alternative or thought.
thank you.
So, Madam Chair, I appreciate Bill providing that information. My initial reaction was it meets code. I have concerns because of my background regarding the transportation, and also my personal frustration with trying to drive through parking lots. But the only thing that primarily raises a red flag for me on this is the 24-hour operation, that based upon the metro area populations or city populations that Ms. Fox shared with us, we have that population in our area. And so if that serves as a template, more than likely they're going to go 24 hours. But I'm not sure them operating 24 hours is actually going to be a problem overall in the parking lot and with the stacking in that area. And especially based upon my own personal driving, leaving the airport, coming back from the airport, there's not that many people there at that time.
The 24
But-
hours, they have to come back. They have to come back to count. They don't have to come back. They could just change it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So the main thing I have concerns about is the stacking. And so personally, I would like to see the traffic overflow plan before we take a position or before I vote yay or nay on this particular project. So I'm for a continuance and asking them to provide that traffic overflow plan to us at a later date for our consideration.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Smith.
To that end, and I kind of also wanted to just get this on record, because I'm open to continuance. My opinion is never set in stone. But if this is continued, I also candidly, I didn't look too much into, the Santa Rosa location. Being vaguely, I'm not an expert. I don't live in Santa Rosa, obviously. But having been and having some familiarity with the area, I don't know that there is a corridor where this could be in Santa Rosa that has similar daily traffic to Eagle. And so I would like to see, I guess, some more clarity in and maybe perhaps more comparable traffic studies, and I'd like to see those include vehicles per day or average daily trips, whatever the metric is, of those locations relative to this Eagle corridor. This is the busiest corridor in the state. That is a major issue that I have. Is that, and I also would, beyond just simple stacking, if there is additional mitigation regarding the parking spots, kind of if you go to a McDonald's or the Culver's on U-Stick, there's the extra parking spots you can pull into an actual dedicated parking spots. If that is an option, how they would enforce that given kind of the nature of the evening traffic, evening crowd there. I think also my concern, if 24/7, my concern is not 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. My concern is, I don't know, I can't give you a specific hour, but call it, 6 p.m. to midnight, right? Though that's the time where I'm significantly concerned. And I'd like to see better mitigation specifically addressed to those hours. So I can't say that a continuance is going to significantly impact whether I think this is appropriate, but I'm open to hearing the applicant come back if that's something that the rest of the commission wants.
Question for staff. Did you say there were designated parking spots for this location? Did they have 3 specifically? And then they would use the shared parking lot if they needed more? Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. Kurt, is it appropriate for us to open the public hearing to address the applicant again to see if a continuance is something that they would consider, or should we just go ahead and vote?
Madam Chair, I think you can do it either way. So if you'd like input from the applicant on how, you may want to know how much time it would take to gather that information and what a convenient date would be. So if you would like to reopen the public hearing for that purpose, that would be fine. You don't, if the commission independently decides you need additional information before you can make a decision, you can just do that unilaterally. That's your prerogative. You need all the information that is required before you can make an intelligent decision. So I say if you want some input from the applicant as to clarity on what's being asked of them, how much time would it take to prepare it, what's a good date to have a second discussion, that'd be appropriate to reopen the public hearing. But if you don't need answers to those things, you could just unilaterally continue it until a date certain and be specific about what additional information you need to between now and the date of the next hearing.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Stoll?
Question for Kirk. So regardless of whether we ask the applicant the question as far as can they do that, are they open to a continuance? Process-wise, don't we have to reopen the public hearing anyway to do a continuance?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Stoll, that's correct. So you're correct. we have to open it for the continuance itself. That I agree.
Just want to make sure I was understanding the process.
You good?
So Madam Chair, if I may.
Catching my breath here for a second.
Let's-
Commissioner Stoll?
Unless you wanted to
No, go ahead.
share anything. I move that we reopen the public hearing for this application.
Seconded.
It's been moved and second to reopen the public hearing for Seven Brew. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. So Sandra, the public hearing is open again, so we can, you've been able to hear our conversation back and forth of some of the concerns for the commissioners. And Commissioner Smith, what was that you really wanted to see again? Can you reiterate that, please?
Sure, Madam Chair. So I think specifically mitigation plans for traffic in the PM hours, specific comparison data for traffic in comparable markets with comparable transportation grids, and including average daily trip numbers and things like that. And additionally, I mean, I'd also like to know if there are any other stores that have limited hours, specifically limited evening operating hours, if that is something that Seven Brew is open to, what those boundaries are.
Sandra, would you like to respond?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. We are willing to modify the hours of operation and take that off of the table so that we will not request that 24-hour operation and abide by the typical drive-through hours. We did submit an exhibit showing how many cars we could stack in that escape lane or the bypass lane, as well as where cars could stack within that parking lot. We did not, however, we are willing to identify those parking stalls where we can park cars and bring orders out to. So what you are asking for, we have essentially prepared minus the request for the average daily trips. But those are, we knew what the draft conditions of approval were, and so we were preparing that, and I believe we provided that to our planner who's not here this evening, but.
Madam Chair, just to clarify something, Bill or the question. So my understanding from what you said is if they use the overflow, the emergency lane, whatever, the overflow, whatever it's called, that's a violation of the CUP, right? And that would trigger an enforcement action or a review of the CUP. Is that correct?
Madam Chair, members of the commission, that is correct. That as currently reviewed, we are saying that's the required escape lane per the specific use standards. But realizing that the applicant is opening a new franchise, it could be popular for the first few months. I mean, obviously, we understand that we have to move traffic through there, and we don't want to create an undue or any issues entering or exiting the site and stacking on Fairview. So if that were to happen on an interim basis, probably not that big of a deal. Not saying it's not a violation, but it makes sense to do something in the interim to make sure that they can get through that opening period, that grand opening. But long-term, that's not the solution.
So that,
Long-term, if that was to happen on a continuous basis from a year from now or after the buzz wore off, no pun intended, then that would be a violation, and we would probably say you need to come in and probably modify this to be a tier 3 if you want to use that as a stacking lane. Or they could amend their application now and do that now and just get it approved, and we can continue them, allow them to amend their hearing. We can go backwards, renotice it for tier 3, and we can go on to city council. There's many ways we can get there. It's just whatever you and the applicant want to do.
That's why I just want to make sure that the applicant understood that that's the use of the overflow lane is not a long-term solution as part of a mitigation plan.
Right.
And I see she's got her hand raised.
Yeah, and she did say that they didn't anticipate to use it for long-term, just for the honeymoon period. Sandra, did you want to make a comment?
Yes, thank you. Exactly what I was going to say is that we completely understand and we do use that escape lane to move vehicles through. So if someone were to receive their order and they're third in line, they are able to use that escape lane, leave the line, and we are able to move additional cars in. So the escape lane actually helps us move vehicles through. And again, it would be in kind of that emergency situation where we know that we could be causing problems and we'd like to avoid that. But again, parking those cars, delivering drinks to them, that's our main goal.
So, Madam Chair, members of the commission, I apologize. I appreciate the applicant saying that they provided that exhibit. Linda and I have not seen that, and she's right. Nick is the planner that was assigned. But Sandra, you have the ability to share your screen and share that with the commission. So if that's something you're willing to produce tonight, you can share that and they can take a look at it and see if they agree with you or not.
The magic of computers. Let me pull this up.
Madam Chair.
Commissioners?
Well, while she's pulling that up, I do have a question for staff. If this work continued, would it be possible for staff to do a survey of drive-through coffee shops in Meridian and get an idea of what tier those would be classified as? And all things are possible, but is that, would that be an undue burden, or is that something that seems like it would be achievable?
Madam Chair, members of the commission, it's achievable. It just takes work. But I can tell you most of the Dutch Bros that we worked on are tier 3, just because they have dual drive-throughs and dual windows. So they automatically fall into that classification or definition. So I know Human Being has some of those dual drive-throughs. So it really comes down to, again, the premise behind a tier 3 was that they were going to be the high volume, high capacity drive-through. So we were trying to, council wanted to act on those. And so that's why we had very specific standards on criteria for what classified a tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. So any tier 2 is basically one window, one stacking lane, one ordering point. A tier 3 is 2 windows, 2 stacking lanes, 2 ordering points, or a combination of that. So it could be still 2 ordering points, 1 stacking lane, and 2 windows like a McDonald's. So that could still be classified as a tier 3. So really, it's really meant to address some of those concerns. So that's why when we met with the applicant, we pre-app with them, they were very clear that they always intended to be a tier 2.
Madam Chair.
So that's why they've drawn the plan the way they've drawn it.
Commissioner Gelsomino?
Just a quick question, because a light bulb kind of came up into my head when you were mentioning the Dutch Bros. A similar location that I was considering that has a very tight area of parking and drive-through. What, off the top of your head, Bill, do you know what classification the Black Rock on Fairview is considered? Tier 2, tier 3, the Black Rock, I believe it's.
But the one near Locust Grove?
Yes, yes.
Madam Chair, members of the commission, remember, I think the important thing to remember here is at the time that these were approved, there was no tiered. It was a different ordinance. So that's the difference is that code has drastically changed from when those were approved to what we're talking about tonight. So because we wanted to have more express standards to make sure that we can minimize these conflicts. So that's why we've beefed up the standards to make sure that we could address all of these different drive-throughs. And that's why I kind of informed you that they do meet code. I mean, they're doing exactly what the code has asked them to do. And so that's why I want, as Kurt mentioned, again, a condition of use permit allows you to add additional conditions to mitigate the concern. And so I would encourage you to go that route. It's a little bit more difficult to deny a conditional use permit. It's meant to mitigate a concern. And so you do that through conditions or getting more information so that you can make an informed decision on it.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Smith?
I know the applicant has this open, so I want to just close the loop on this to, in the event of continuance, just to give guidance to staff. My goal isn't to necessarily get a raw tally and compare and see, compare past developments to current developments. The thing that I'm struggling with is the idea that tier 2 versus tier 3 has no capacity measurement, and there's no way to judge if something ought to be tier 2 or tier 3 rather than, it is based on the characteristics of the building. And so I'm trying to get a better, I don't know, maybe it's something other than what I actually asked for, but I'm trying to get an idea of the other comparable locations in Meridian. Seems like this is a new concept from the applicant's perspective, and so there might not be as much comparable information from that side, but getting an idea of the impacts of traffic, the impacts on traffic of these coffee shops in these locations based on the tiers, based on, it doesn't matter, but I'm just trying to get a better feel for that. And I don't think we have that right now.
Madam Chair, members of the commission, certainly there is, so a tier 3 does have a minimum capacity. So you have to remember it's 6 vehicles per stacking lane. So if they have 2 stacking lanes, they have to have accommodate a minimum of 12 vehicles. So that's the difference. A tier 2 is 6 vehicles. Tier 3 is 12 vehicles and an escape lane. So there is a minimum standard there that we built into the code.
And Madam Chair,
Commissioner Smith?
to be clear, yeah, my goal is not design accommodation, but expected impact. And none of us are soothsayers, we can't predict the future, but that's the question I'm really after, is not what is it designed for? Because again, like I mentioned, Chick-fil-A could come in and design a tier 2, and I don't think that would be responsible. That's the main question at hand. So I don't want to overload your plate with a bunch of research. I guess that's just giving clarification around my ask of if there's anything that could help speak to that. If this does continue, that's just what I wanted to mention. But I don't want to, I know the applicant has been waiting patiently.
Well, and I think the challenge is that because the concept of the 3 tiers is relatively new to our city, and if you use Human Being or BlackRock or Dutch Brothers, they were all approved under a different standard. And so you're really kind of comparing apples and oranges at that point in time. I'm not sure if a continuance would be in anybody's best interest, but like Bill said, maybe we put more conditions on there. The applicant was definitely open not to doing the 24 hours, but they would have the limited hours. And, that kind of thing. Sandra, can you hear me? I don't think she's on the
I
line.
can't.
think-
No,
Oh, you can't?
I am here. Yes, I was.
Oh, you are
asked-
there. Okay, so tell us what we're looking at.
Okay, so what you are looking at is one proposal, and as you know, the parking lot better than I do. But there are many drive aisles, and so the intent is to have traffic circulate a certain way through, whether we have signage, whether we have employees that are directing traffic, to a route that is the least impactful to the parking. So what you're seeing is our 7 cars that are in the queue closest to the structure. There are the 8 cars, which we know is not a permanent solution, in the bypass lane. And then I believe we have another 12 cars at least stacked in the drive-through lane. Knowing that these cars are not parked, but they are moving extremely quickly through the queue, the potential for impact or for incident is low. We also, as we stated, are looking or are willing to designate specific stalls for people to order and either use the bypass lane and park, or they have the ability to stay in the queue. So there are accessible parking stalls to the east as well as to the south. And so that is what we are looking at. And again, this was just one proposal of a possible layout of how additional cars can stack.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Smith?
question for the applicant. Do you have any ability to, or do you have any rights to any of these parking spots to block them off as dedicated? You know, again, a thing like McDonald's has just spots in in their parking lots sometimes where you drive through and it's, you know, you go to, they say, hey, go to lane 1 or spot 1 and we'll run it out to you. Do you have the dedicated right, not like cross-access agreement or anything like that, but the ability to isolate and dedicate any of these spots, and how many and which specific ones for overflow parking?
Sure. So the dedicated, as staff stated before, we have 3 dedicated parking stalls, one being ADA accessible. We do have the ability to state that these 2 parking stalls are specific for ordering or for waiting for orders. The remainder are through the cross-access and cross-parking agreement.
I'm sure.
Commissioner Stoll?
Just follow up on that, Sandra. So it's gonna be stenciled saying just for 7 Brew parking?
No, we're not proposing that by any means. So this would be only in those cases where we are exceeding the queue.
Okay. And am I looking at this table correct? Maybe Linda can answer this question for me. There's no access to Fairview Avenue at all. It's only through this lane or road going between In-N-Out and 7 Brew. Is that correct? So there's no, I'm not seeing a likelihood of the stack going out onto Fairview or blocking. It's highly unlikely it's going to be blocking Fairview. It's just an internal circulation for the parking lot itself is that we're concerned about. Okay.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Smith?
Question for the applicant. I know you mentioned being willing to get rid of the 24/7 parking. Knowing that, like, again, the 2 a.m. to 4 a.m., for example, wasn't the main concern. I'm curious about your locations and kind of their average close times. How early do some of your locations close? Is there a 25th percentile, 75th percentile, do any of your locations close as early as 6 p.m.? For example, is that's a core question of mine. I'm curious if you have any info on that.
No, none of our stores are closing that early. I shouldn't say none. I shouldn't say none. A very, if any, very limited, so maybe a handful.
Is typically 10 or 11 p.m. your closing time?
Absolutely. 5 a.m. to 11.
11 p.m.?
Correct.
Okay.
And why we do that, we have a lot of shift workers. So whether it be first responders, hospital workers, those types of folks that usually come in prior to their evening shift or right after they get off in the morning.
Right. Any other final thoughts, Sandra, before we close the public hearing again?
No, I appreciate there was a statement that we were being patient, but no, we appreciate the conversation and the back and forth. We're happy to answer any questions. We would rather avoid a continuance if possible, just because we are on a quick build timeline. So we would be looking to obtain permits as soon as possible and hit the ground running. So thank you for your time.
May I get a motion to close a public hearing?
Madam Chair.
Oh, excuse me, Commissioner Smith?
I think we should probably discuss if we would want to continue first, or what the commission's position is, because if there still was a desire to continue, I guess by any of the commission, not to deliberate before we vote, but then we'd have to open the public hearing again, I guess.
I don't see how she could really provide any new information. I mean, she provided the exhibit, which is what you asked for. The hard thing for me is that we're trying to put a crystal ball on something that we just don't know if it's going to work or not, right? We already know the challenges of the area, and she does too. Otherwise, I mean, they want to be in a high visual, high impact area. And that's their choice, and the market will decide whether or not it's successful or not. I mean, if the queue is always going to be backed up and people get frustrated, they're not going to go. And that's going to be the end of that. But if the market is driven and people think that this is the best thing since sliced bread and they want to wait, then that's people's decision. It's not necessarily ours. So, is there any new information that can be provided for you to make a decision, gentlemen?
Not from my standpoint, I have the information I need.
Okay. Commissioner Smith, are you okay with that?
Yeah, I think I'm able to make. Thank you. Yeah, I think I'm able to make a decision tonight.
Okay. So with that being said, may I get a motion to close the public hearing?
So move.
Seconded.
It's been moved and seconded to close the public hearing for 7 Brew. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I'm going to take a little different view. I don't have a problem with this thing being here at all. I mean, having the runners coming through, they're going to hustle. They're going to move that coffee through. I think the first 3 to 6 months during that honeymoon period that kind of Bill mentioned, that the stacking lanes, both the emergency and the regular are probably going to be full. And as they continue to open new locations, then you can get your 7 Brew someplace else and you don't necessarily have to go to the village, for this point in time. I think their business model says that there's 400 customers average a day and their queue is usually 7.4. And their regular stacking lane can handle that. And then if you're number 3 out of 7 and you get your drink first, then you pop through and you get out of there. So I think it complements the area, because thinking off the top of my head, I can't think of another coffee place within at least a half a mile to this, whether you're down on Eagle or on Fairview. And like she said, they want the visibility. They want to be there. And the market will decide whether or not people get too frustrated with this queue. And if they do, they'll stop going, period. And let the market decide whether or not that this is the right space for this. I don't think there's really a lot of things that go 24 hours in the city of Meridian. We're just really haven't been that community up until this point in time. Maybe as we continue to grow as a city, there may be more needs for 24-hour services, but pulling up the carpet and shutting off the lights is not necessarily a bad thing either. So, I'm in favor of this application. I think I don't drink coffee, so I'm not your customer. And so I really couldn't say that, I would be waiting, but even if the kids were coming through, they don't want to wait either. So they're going to want to get their drinks. They're going to move through. There's no place to go. You can't even go to the restroom in there. And their business model looks like, based on their application, is they take your drink, you get it, and you get out. So I know that both you and Commissioner Gelsomino and Commissioner Smith, you use the space more as a consumer for other things there. And so I understand your hesitation based on just the geographics and the challenge of the village itself. But they have a right to be in that space. It's not necessarily our decision on what should go there. And you got to be careful what you wish for, because it could be, if you would deny this, then the next application could be something worse. So, but I think it's a good fit for the area. Commissioner Stoll, did you have some additional comments?
So, Madam Chair, the applicant, after we reopened public testimony, answered my question as far as the mitigation plan. And in looking at the layout of the parcel, my other concern as far as having any impact upon traffic on Fairview, that's been eliminated. They have met the requirements of city code. The only addition that I'd have is that the staff, as far as a condition, would just be that the staff approve the mitigation plan prior to it. Certificate of occupancy. Yeah.
Madam
So
Chair.
I'm in favor of it. So.
Madam Chair. My mic's on.
Oh, I'm not, sorry.
Madam Chair. Yeah, I'm not in a position where I can support this tonight. I think, and in terms of naming specific things, I think um, I think the mitigation plan, is inadequate for the type of business in this type of location. When the average, of this business, stacking lanes is about 12, even accounting for those extra slots. So you get 9, you have 7 stacking in the lane and you get these 9 2 parking spots. That's still 25% less than average. Again, not to beat a dead horse, but if In-N-Out, if Chick-fil-A, if so many of the Raising Cane's came in and designed for 7 cars in a stacking lane with one drive aisle, I think a lot of the commission would understand that's an irresponsible choice for that location. And I'm not comparing this directly to those, but there is a line somewhere. I think from what limited knowledge we have based on the applicants' numbers themselves show that they tend to plan for higher numbers. They tend to plan for higher traffic. The fact that they're looking at expanding in the area shows that they're anticipating enough traffic to justify what's ostensibly likely a large capital expenditure, right? I think, and I don't want to in any way insinuate that I think the applicant is being disingenuous, but I think there's a lot of there's your stated preference and there's your revealed preference, right? There's your stated what you claim to believe in, or what you do believe, and then what your actual behavior as an individual or as a company goes toward. And I think there's a disconnect there. And I don't think that's intentional. I'm not saying the applicant is doing anything subversive or anything like that. I just think that the concept, the numbers haven't proven themselves out to where this is justified to be designed as a tier 2. I don't know that is the case when a lot of these comparable locations are tier 3s. They design for tier 3s, they plan for tier 3 traffic. And a lot of those places aren't even on our busiest arterial in the state. So I think there are a lot of significant issues there. I think also regarding our role, it is not our place to tell this applicant whether there deserves to be this here. Our role is to mitigate externalities, right? Mitigate the impact on the community, whether that's on Fairview or whether that's to local business owners. We have just as much of a duty to those local business owners, the same way that we have a duty to residents to ensure that residential development is planned reasonably to not have an undue burden on the area. As part of the staff analysis. And so I think I just can't get to a spot. Potentially there's some stuff in the continuance that maybe it could change my mind. I don't know that the applicant would be amenable to it. I don't know that I can support without having seen prior track record of this type of this concept, which is new to the West Coast or new to the Western US, in comparable locations with comparable, average daily trips, and comparable hours. I wouldn't be comfortable doing that without significantly limiting PM hour operation. So I can't support it. I understand the rest of the commission's position. I have, again, with the inability to claw back any of that approval and only eliminate solution opportunities if they're using the emergency access too much, we can only hinder them more. We can't force them to alleviate the traffic better. And so that gives me significant pause for anything that is operative in perpetuity. So those reasons I'm opposed.
Commissioner Gelsomino, no pressure or anything.
Madam Chair,
You don't have to make it, I just need to know like where you're thinking.
I'm evenly torn, unfortunately. The policy side of me says it checks the boxes. The citizen side of me, when I saw the applicant's diagram that she pulled up, the hair on the back of my neck stood up because I immediately started seeing all the cars lined up. And my thought was, okay, I get to the gym by 4:30, 5 o'clock. I spin around and around and around and around trying to find an open spot to park. And by the time I find a parking spot, it's time for me to go home and make dinner. And I didn't even get to go to the gym and work out. So it just, as much as I would love to see that dirt plot filled, because especially during rainy, terrible weather, kids like to drive through it and spray mud everywhere. It just becomes a muddy sinkhole. The congestion is just something I cringe at. But again, the policy side of me says it checks the boxes. The citizen side of me starts to think it's going to impact the clientele of, Villa Sport and others who are using that, or whose clients, other businesses whose clients use that particular parking spot.
Okay,
Yeah.
so Kurt, there is a high probability that we're going to be split. We can vote and achieve that, or do we continue it to have another commissioner present so that we can have a meaningful vote?
Madam Chair, I think both of the options are possible. You can call for a vote this evening, but if you feel like, the commission's not there, that, based upon your deliberations so far, that's not going to be productive, I think you also have the option to continue and have a fifth and or sixth commissioner here as well. So I think you can do it either way. Traditionally, I would say we typically would call for a vote and confirm there is a tie before we, continued and waited for a fifth vote, but I think you could do it either way.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Stoll?
just making sure the mic's on.
Yes, I know. Got a lot of little gremlins tonight, so.
After considering all staff, applicant, and public testimony, I move to approve file number H-2026-0017 as presented in the staff report for the hearing date of June 18th, 2026, with the following modification: that the traffic mitigation report be reviewed by staff and approved prior to a certificate of occupancy being issued.
I second that. It's been moved and second to approve the conditional use permit for 7 Brew Coffee. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any denies?
No.
So we are officially tied.
So Madam Chair, maybe a question for you as chair, but your colleagues, fellow commissioners may have an opinion as well. So I think you have two choices now. We've confirmed there's a 2-2 tie, and so you do need a fifth commissioner to break that tie. So you have, my question of you is, if you want to allow additional information into the record when your fifth commissioner is present, then you'd likely want to open the public hearing again, continue it, so that you have an opportunity for your fifth commissioner to ask questions and bring new information into the record. That's choice number one. I would lean slightly in that direction, but also you could just continue with, we're just going to delay the vote until you have your fifth commissioner present and not take any more information into the record. That's a possibility as well. I would lean, I'm going to ask my colleague, Mr. Parsons, if he has an opinion about that. I kind of lean toward a lot, if you're going to have a brand new commissioner present, it would probably be fair for that individual to be able to ask some additional information if they needed to, in which case you would want the opportunity for the public hearing to be opened. Bill, do you have any opinions about that?
Madam Chair, members of the commission, I concur with you with legal. I think it's fair to the process. Ask for a continuance. Obviously, you need to get more information, and we need to get another commissioner here to vote on it. So I agree with that.
And I'm not sure if I can ask this question of just generally of the commission. Are there other conditions that would sway their vote that they want to offer right now?
Or to make it, yeah, I mean, we're open to make a new motion as
Yeah,
well.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Smith?
I have them written down. I'm happy to make that motion for continuance, or if Commissioner Stoll, if you'd like me to give you information so you can make the complete.
Not on the continue. I'm just asking if anybody has any conditions that they.
I have 3 that could potentially change my mind, or yes, 3 that could potentially change my mind
For a continuance.
for continuance.
I think at this point, I'd like some input
Okay.
from the applicant. And then when we open the public hearing, you Commissioner Smith, you can reiterate that to Sandra. So that way, when we do have another commissioner here, they can tailor their presentation to those bullet points that you would like clarification on. Is that fair?
Yep.
May I get a motion to open the public hearing for file number H 2026-0017?
So moved.
Second?
It's been moved and second to open public hearing for 7 Brew. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Sandra. Commissioner Smith is going to list a few concerns that he has, and we would like to continue this application so that we may have more commissioners here so that we can make a thoughtful decision for this conditional use permit. Do you, Madam Clerk, what dates might be available for this application to be heard again?
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have July 2nd or July 16th. Those are the dates for July. Do you want me to look at August as well?
Let's ask Sandra if either of those dates can work for her.
Yes, July 2nd would be fine.
Okay, so that date's available. And Commissioner Smith, would you like to share with her some of the things that you would like to hear in the next presentation?
Sure. I mean, I could also just make a motion to continue. I guess I can provide them to you, and if none of them are feasible, you can let me know. But I have written here the average number of cars that are designed to stack in the 25th median and 75th percentile of your locations. So the average stacking, the 25th, 50th, 75th. The daily trips, average daily trips of the roadways on which your comparable locations are located at the 25th median and 75th percentile. A number and or percent of stores closing at or before 6 p.m. and 8 p.m. And then the only other one is for the ask from staff. Are any of those unfeasible?
No, I would ask, no, they are not unfeasible. I would ask, are there specific numbers that you are looking for so that we may make conditions of an approval, so that if the average daily trips on the roadway are X and the 25th, 50th, 75th percentile meet a specific number, can staff then approve it?
Yes, I guess for your information, if for example, your stacking numbers are significantly higher than this, for me to support, I would need to see a design that even though tier 2 is 6+, I would want to add more conditions to have non-emergency stacking that is at more of a commensurate level. So that would probably need to redesign. So that's what I'm looking for. And if your numbers are significantly lower and I'm off base, I'm happy to approve. So that's why I'm asking is I just need the math to math out.
And what I am asking is, do you have specific numbers in mind that we can give to staff so that the project can be conditionally approved if we meet these specific criteria? And that way,
I think it's the totality of information, and so we would decide that at the continued hearing.
Okay, so your answer is no, you're not willing to put those numbers down so that if we can show staff that we meet them before that July 2nd date.
No, I would just like to see those maybe as additions to the staff report or as appendices or something like that would help me in my decision.
And Sandra, he's just one commissioner, so everybody has their
exactly,
own,
for sure.
or their own threshold of what is acceptable for your stacking lane. So that is something that he would like to see. But there is no magic number saying if it's
Exactly.
7.4, then you're for sure in. Whatever the average is that he would like to see. And then based on that information, we can make a better decision.
Understood, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Kurt, do we motion a continuous in the public hearing, or do we close it at this point?
So Madam Chair, the recommendation both from Mr. Parsons and myself would be to continue the public hearing until July 2nd. To continue it, that will give you the opportunity on July 2nd to receive more information into the record, including from the applicant, but also give your fifth commissioner and or sixth commissioner an opportunity to ask questions and get that material into the record as well. So I'd recommend that you continue the hearing tonight until July 2nd.
May I get a motion to continue the public hearing for 7 Brew Coffee to July 2nd?
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Smith.
I move to continue, sorry, this isn't the right file number. I move to continue, file number, H-2026-0017 to the date of July 2nd, for the following reasons. To allow, I'll start with this one, to allow staff to gather information regarding comparable locations or comparable developments within the city of Meridian, including stacking or traffic numbers, whatever is reasonable under staff's purview. And then to allow the applicant to provide data including the average number of cars that are designed to stack in non-emergency lanes across their locations to the 25th, 50th, and 75th percentile. The number and or percent of stores closing at or before 6 p.m. and 8 p.m. Data showing the average daily trips on transit corridors where their stores are located to the 25th, 50th, and 75th percentile stores, and 75th percentile.
Do I have a second?
Seconded.
It's been moved and second to continue 7 Brew Coffee with the aforementioned reasons for July 2nd. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you for your patience, Sandra. Does
Thank you.
anybody need to take a quick break or are we ready to carry on? We are. All right, we're going to move on. Item number 4 on the agenda is item number H 2025-0048 for Blueberry Hills subdivision. Requests annexation and a preliminary plat at 4315 North 10 Mile Road. And we will begin with the staff report.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the commission. The next application before you is a request for annexation and zoning and a preliminary plat. This site consists of 8.87 acres of land. It's zoned RUT, Rural Urban Transition, in Ada County. It's located at 4315 North 10 Mile Road on the west side of 10 Mile, midway between Ustick and McMillan Roads. A little history on this property. In 2008, an amendment to the future land use map and the comprehensive plan was approved that changed the designation of the subject property from mixed-use wastewater treatment plant to office and low-density residential. The current comp plan future land use designation is office, 1.65 acres of the site along 10 Mile Road, and low-density residential, which is 7.25 acres on the western portion of the site. That designation allows 3 or fewer dwelling units per acre. The applicant is requesting annexation of 9.36 acres of land with R4 zoning, which is 7.22 acres of the site, and LO zoning, which is 2.14 acres of the site, for the development of 20 new single-family residential homes with 4 office buildings along the frontage of 10 Mile, as shown on the concept plan. The proposed uses and residential density of 2.77 units per acre is consistent with that anticipated in the comprehensive plan for this property. A preliminary plat is concurrently proposed to subdivide the property into 24 building lots, that's 20 residential and 4 commercial lots, and 12 common or other lots on 8.87 acres of land. The plat is proposed to develop in 2 final plat phases due to the city's inability to provide sewer service at this time to the 5 western lots in phase 2. And that is, if you can see these purple ones right down here, those are the ones we're talking about. Lost my place, just one moment. The project lies within 2 different sewer sheds, the White White Drain Trunk Shed will provide service for Phase 1, and Phase 2 will be served by the Black Cat Trunk Shed once sewer infrastructure becomes available. There is an existing home and accessory structures on this property that will be removed with development. There is also an existing access easement and driveway from 10 Mile Road across proposed lots 1 through 6, Block 1, that currently serves the home that will be removed and 2 other properties. So the home that will be removed is located in this area right here. And that home, the home on this property, and the home up here to the northwest all have access from that access easement here from 10 Mile Road. The easement will be vacated with the proposed plat, and the driveway will be removed with development. Access will be provided for the 2 remaining properties via an access easement and common driveway on Lot 6, Block 1. And that is this lot right here. When those properties redevelop in the future, the access easement should be vacated and driveway removed and the area landscaped. 1 local street access is proposed via North 10 Mile Road for the development in alignment with West Bell Tower Drive, a collector street on the east side of 10 Mile. Stub streets are proposed to adjacent properties to the north, south, and west for future access and interconnectivity upon redevelopment of those parcels. A drive aisle stub is proposed to the south from the office development on the east end of the site, which will serve as a backage road along North 10 Mile Road and connect to the drive aisle being constructed to the south with 10 Mile storage. And that will be in this location right here. Cross-access ingress egress easements should be provided between all commercial lots in the subdivision and to the property to the south. A conceptual redevelopment plan was submitted as shown, as requested by staff, for the 2 out parcels adjacent to this site that shows how they could possibly redevelop in the future with access from proposed local streets in the subdivision. A 25-foot wide landscape street buffer is required along 10 Mile Road, and a 10-foot wide buffer is required along Bell Tower Drive on the LO zone lots, as shown on the landscape plan. Landscaping is required in accord with UDC standards along internal pedestrian pathways and within common open space areas. A minimum of 12% or 0.87 acres qualified open space is required to be provided in the R4 district. 15% or 1.08 acres is proposed, exceeding the minimum standard, which includes 50% of the street buffer along 10 Mile Road and open space areas within the development, including a large pond and linear open space areas, as shown on the exhibit before you. Based on the area of the development, site amenities totaling a minimum of 1 point are required. Walking paths and a picnic area on a site greater than 5,000 square feet in size are proposed, totaling 2 points, exceeding UDC standards. Conceptual building elevations were submitted for the proposed single-family residential detached dwellings, as shown, that represent the quality of development proposed. Conceptual building elevations were not submitted for the future office buildings. These buildings should be designed to comply with the design standards in the Architectural Standards Manual. No letters of testimony were received from the public on this application. The applicant did submit a response to the staff report that they are in agreement with staff's recommended conditions of approval. Staff is recommending approval with the requirement of a development agreement with the provisions noted in the staff report. Staff will stand for any questions. The applicant is here to present tonight.
The applicant like to come forward?
Oh, the mouse?
If the mouse is not working, try your arrows.
Yeah, would you? Okay. Sorry, it's not, it's a little funky. She's sensitive. Okay, we're ready. All right, thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the commission, hello and good evening. For the record, my name is Sabrina Durkee. I am here on behalf of the applicant, and my business address is 5179 South Boven Avenue, Boise, Idaho 83716. And this evening, I have the honor and privilege to be presenting to you our applications for Blueberry Hills subdivision. So, first, I'd like to welcome you to Blueberry Hills. Blueberry Hills is envisioned as a thoughtfully designed, upscale infill community that brings together attractive single-family residential lots with complementary light office uses within a tree-lined setting. The two uses have been intentionally planned to complement one another, with the office component fronting 10 Mile Road and providing a natural transition into the quieter residential portion of our community. This rendering that you're seeing shows the primary entrance into our light office portion of the development from 10 Mile. You can see the entry monument, layered landscaping, and natural materials that all have been intentionally designed to create a strong sense of arrival, but also super welcoming. So, as you enter the community from West Bell Tower Drive, you'll pass through the light office portion of the development. Parking is located behind the office buildings, keeping it largely screened from the main entrance and creating a more attractive streetscape along 10 Mile Road. The rear parking area also provides additional separation between the office buildings and the residential portion of the community. Beyond the parking lot, generous landscape buffer provides another layer of screening and helps create a comfortable but gradual transition to the adjoining single-family homes. As we move along beyond the light office buildings and the parking area, you arrive at our residential portion of Blueberry Hills. The monument shown here clearly signals the transition and creates a distinct entrance into the neighborhood. Its materials, colors, and design elements were intentionally coordinated with the light office monumentation, so the two entrances really complement one another. Together, the signs create a cohesive identity for Blueberry Hills, reinforces the sense that the office and residential components were planned as one harmonious, thoughtfully designed community. Here's an overall view of the entire site, really showing our main entrance to the light office tucked along 10 Mile, and then the transition into our residential portion of the site. From this perspective, you can see that the office and residential components are distinct, but they're also intentionally planned as one cohesive development. So, getting to the nut and bolts of our project, Blueberry Hills, we're requesting an annexation, zoning of LO and R4, and a preliminary plat. We are asking for 4 light office lots, 20 single-family lots, and 11 common lots. Our gross density will be 2.77 units per acre, and our diverse residential lot sizes will range from 8,000 square feet up to 12,270 square feet. As Sonia has mentioned, the current comprehensive plan designates the site as low density and light office. And as you can see, our layout perfectly matches up to the comp plan designation for this area. So I always like for us to take a step back and to better understand how this site really fits within the area. It's really important to take a closer look at the surrounding context in detail. So immediately north of the site, we have Drawbridge Subdivision, a 9-lot, low-density residential neighborhood, along with 2 unincorporated Ada County parcels that are directly adjacent to our application. Farther north is Volterra Development, which includes a mix of residential and commercial uses. To the east, we have Bridge Tower Crossing Subdivision. This is a medium-density development featuring a mix of single-family homes and complementary commercial uses along 10 Mile Road. The southern boundary of the site is adjacent to, which is currently being constructed, 10 Mile Storage Development, as well as the City of Meridian's wastewater resource recovery facility. And then to the west, we have parcels that are currently owned by the City of Meridian. So the surrounding context illustrates that Blueberry Hills is well suited for this location. The proposed office uses along 10 Mile respond to the more active demand of the corridor, while the residential portion of the development provides a compatible transition toward the established neighborhoods to the north and to the east. Together, the proposed uses create a thoughtful connection between residential, commercial, and municipal and storage uses that are already present in this area. As we've discussed, we're requesting 2 zones. Our guiding so based on the comprehensive plan, which is really our guiding document, we are requesting LO highlighted in purple, and then our R4 low density, which is in yellow. And Sonia touched on this, but this is an infill site, and we would typically do this in one phase, but unfortunately the site is kind of like bisected by two trunk shed boundaries. So 15 lots will be within phase 1. That will be served by the white drain trunk shed, and the remaining 5 lots will be served by the black cat trunk shed once sewer is available. Now I'd like to walk you through the homes within Blueberry Hills. The elevations here illustrate the architectural character envisioned for the residential portion of this community. The community will include a mix of single-story and 2-story homes with varied roof lines, garage configurations, and front entry features that create a visual interest throughout the neighborhood. Although the individual homes will offer a range of styles and floor plans, they will all share kind of a cohesive design language. Elements such as board and batten, siding, masonry accents, metal awnings, decorative gables, and warm wood details really establish the upscale, timeless character envisioned for our community. Usable open space is a top priority, forming the foundation for our community's amenities, pathways, and overall connectivity. Blueberry Hills provides 1.07 acres of qualified open space. And then we have for pathways, the connectivity and walkability is also a priority within our little infill development. Blue depicts our existing sidewalk along 10 Mile Road. Purple depicts our 5-foot community sidewalks, and orange depicts our 5-foot micro pathways for a total of 660 linear feet. This slide really illustrates the overall amenity and landscape framework envisioned for Blueberry Hills and highlights the amenities and overall theme and design for our community. Our primary amenity area is located in the northwest portion of the community and is really designed to serve as a welcoming gathering space for residents. The concept plan includes a pond-style water feature with benches, a covered picnic pavilion, and open lawn area that can support both active and passive recreation. The pond here becomes a centerpiece for our little infill development and allows for a beautiful view and open space for the lots that back onto it. And this slide shows a great perspective at the very edge of the open space and shows the beautiful flow of the pathways and amenities that surround the pond. And I do want to note that these amenities will be built within phase 1. And then within this slide, you can see our covered picnic shelter. We've also incorporated a blueberry patch into the amenity area, because why not? to offer a unique feature and reinforces the identity and character of our community. And the amenity area is connected with surrounding homes by sidewalks and pathways, allowing residents to comfortably walk throughout the neighborhood and access the open space. And just to quickly summarize, we feel that Blueberry Hills is a thoughtfully planned, high-quality infill community. And it's designed to provide a balanced blend of attractive housing options, functional and inviting open space, and intentionally designed gathering areas that encourage connection and create a strong sense of place. This project altogether is complementary residential and light office uses within a cohesive, well-landscaped setting. With its distinctive architecture, generous landscaping, connected pathways, and amenities, and coordinated entry features, we feel that Blueberry Hills will create an attractive, welcoming, and enduring addition for the city of Meridian. And again, we wanted to thank staff for their help and coordination for this application. We're in full agreement with the staff report. And I would like to thank you all for the pleasure of your time, your thoughtful consideration, and respectively request a recommendation of approval to City Council this evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Commissioners, do we have any questions for Sabrina before she sits down?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Delsamino?
Sabrina, thank you for your presentation this evening. They're very elegant homes, and as a former Parks Commissioner, I always enjoy amenities that are interactive, such as the blueberry patches that you'll be implementing in this design. Just as a quick and only question I have for you, have the owners of the Elk Bugle Lane properties been formally notified that the current easement access will be vacated at final plat recordation? And have they consented to the new common driveway arrangement?
Yes, Madam Chair, Commissioner, that's a great question. So I did not handle the neighborhood meeting, but it was discussed then. And when I came on to project manage, to be planner for this project, I was adamant that we need to reach out to the neighbors. I set up a meeting with Kevin, me, one of the neighbors. Unfortunately, the other neighbor was having surgery. We went to the house, brought down the plans. They seemed very amenable to it. And of course, during construction, there'll be a lot of coordination with the neighbors to make sure everything goes as smoothly as possible. So we have reached out to them. I have not heard from any of the neighbors. The one person, Mr. Darren, I told Kevin, after surgery, if he wants to reach out to me, I'm happy to come down again and meet with them. I haven't heard anything. So that's as far as the communication has gone. So yes.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Smith?
I know you just said that you didn't actually handle the neighborhood meetings. So
I
not to put you on the
didn't,
spot.
no.
Were there any other concerns brought up by any residents at the neighborhood meeting? Any discussion of any?
Yeah, Madam Chair, Commissioner. As far as I'm aware, no, I think that they were really pleasantly happy that we're asking for a low density. They're going to be larger lots. And again, we have a lot of storage by us, a lot of commercial. It's already developed. So I don't think that they received a lot of opposition. I think I would have heard, or staff would have heard, if there was. But again, I wasn't there, so I can't give you exact information.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
Madam Clerk, do we have anybody signed up to testify?
Thank you, excuse me. Thank you, Madam Chair. We have Lynn Carrillo.
Okay. All right, anybody else on Zoom?
I have Larry Bowman.
You're good? Okay.
And Madam Chair, no one online is raising I'm sorry, excuse me. I do have Ted Burke that did sign up online, and he is present.
Okay.
Ted, did you wish to say anything?
Yeah, I'm just here as the civil engineer for the project, so I was standing by if anybody had any questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Sabrina, did you want to add anything else before we close the public hearing? Or are you good? No, I think we're good. May I get a motion to close the public hearing, please?
Moved.
Second.
It's been moved and second to close the public hearing for Blueberry Hill subdivision. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Smith?
I don't know if you quite classify this as infill, or it's, maybe on the border of infill, but it's not normal that you see. It's a project in this kind of proximity to existing neighbors be so, well received. So I'm in support. I don't see any issues. I think this is really thoughtfully designed, and it's a good transition space from the main road into lower density areas.
I agree.
Seems pretty reasonable. In support.
Agreed.
All right, I'll take a motion.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Smith?
After considering all staff, applicant, and public testimony, I move to recommend approval. The City Council file number H-2026-0048 as presented in the staff report.
Seconded.
It's been moved and second to recommend approval to City Council for Blueberry Hill subdivision. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Our next item on the agenda is H 2025-0025, Story Rock at Amity near Meridian Road, request a modified development agreement, annexation, rezone, and preliminary plat. And we will start with the staff report.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the commission. The next applications before you tonight are a request for a development agreement modification, annexation, rezone, and a preliminary plat. The site consists of 75 acres of land. It's currently zoned R4 in the city and RUT in Ada County. It's generally located on the south side of West Amity Road, midway between South Meridian Road, State Highway 69, and South Linder Road. A little history on this property. The western 50 acres of the site was annexed into the city as part of the South Meridian annexation in 2016 with R4 zoning and a development agreement. Any future development of the site requires an amendment to the development agreement to approve a proposed development plan. A preliminary plat was previously approved for Stonehill Crossing on the western annexed portion of this property. The Stonehill Church property and the mill property, where the existing home is located at 799 West Amity Road, were included in a final plat application, but the plat has not yet been recorded. The remainder of the area included in the previous preliminary plat is now part of the new preliminary plat included in this application. A conditional use permit was approved in 1979 by Ada County on the property located at 455 West Amity Road for a 6,000 square foot two-story structure for a radio station with offices in the RR zone. 4 communication towers were also approved with the radio station, which have recently been removed. The office building and associated improvements remain on the property. The comprehensive plan future land use map designation is low-density residential on the western 50 acres and medium-density residential on the eastern 26 acres. The low-density designation allows for the development of single-family residential homes on large and estate lots at gross densities of 3 units or less per acre. The medium-density residential designation allows for residential dwellings at gross densities of 3 to 8 units per acre. The applicant is proposing a new development agreement for the proposed development, which includes an additional 26 acres of land to the east and a new development plan for the overall development. This property will no longer be subject to the original Mills development agreement. The proposed development plan is for 321 single-family residential homes and office uses on 75 acres of land. Annexation of 27.11 acres of land is proposed with R15 zoning, which consists of 2.74 acres, and LO zoning, which is 4.37 acres, which is east of the area that is already annexed. This is the additional area proposed to be included in the amended development agreement. And that is, you can see right here, all of this blue and purple area here. Because the property located at 455 West Amity Road, where the existing office is located, is designated medium-density residential on the future land use map, staff is recommending zoning the property R15 rather than the requested LO zoning, consistent with the surrounding area and to facilitate future residential redevelopment consistent with the comprehensive plan. And the existing office is located in this purple area right here. The existing use may continue as a legal nonconforming use in the R15 district, subject to the standards of the nonconforming uses. A rezone of 10.6 acres of land is proposed from the R4 to the R8 zoning district. This will provide a transition between the existing R4 zoning on the western portion of the development and the proposed R15 zoning on the eastern portion of the development. There is 38.85 acres of R4 zoning remaining. A preliminary plat is proposed consisting of 321 residential building lots for single-family residential detached homes. 241 of those are proposed, and townhouse dwelling units, 80 units are proposed. 2 commercial office building lots, again, one of those is where the existing office is. and 44 common lots on 75.13 acres of land in the R4, R8, R15, and LO zoning districts. The minimum lot size proposed is 2,600 square feet with an average lot size of 5,392 square feet and a maximum lot size of 12,581 square feet. The plat is proposed to develop in 5 final plat phases, starting on the west side of the development, as shown on the phasing plan there on the lower right. Because sewer service is being extended from the southeast to serve the eastern portion of this development from South Meridian Road, State Highway 69, through the proposed Syringa Crossing development to the east, staff is recommending the phasing plan is revised to reflect the first phases of development on the east side of the development rather than the west. The applicant is in agreement with that. Access is proposed via South Oakbriar Way, a designated collector street on the master street map, planned to be constructed at the mid-mile with Stonehill Church. And that is this road right here. Actually, excuse me, right here. South Pullman Avenue is also proposed for access right here from Amity Road. It may be designated as a collector street in the future along the east boundary of the site. Stub streets are proposed to the south and west, to the church and the Mills property for future interconnectivity and access. Staff recommends either public right-of-way or a cross-access ingress-egress easement is depicted through Lot 1, Block E1 for future connectivity to the mixed-use designated development to the east to reduce access points to the arterial street, Amity Road. And that is in this location right here. A conceptual redevelopment plan was submitted as shown and requested by staff that shows how the Mills property could redevelop in the future with their proposed development plan. This is the boundary here of the Mills property. Again, that was included and approved in a previous final plat for Stonehill Crossing and is just yet to be recorded. The Calkins lateral runs along the western portion of this development within a 56-foot wide easement. The lateral is proposed to be relocated and piped in common lots along the west side of South Oakbriar Way, the collector street. The Bell sublateral, Carson lateral, runs across the eastern part of the development within a 50-foot wide easement and is proposed to be piped. It's mostly located in common lots, but does cross several buildable lots. The UDC requires irrigation easements wider than 10 feet to be included in a common lot that is a minimum of 20 feet wide and outside of a fenced area, unless otherwise waived by council. The plat should be revised to comply with this standard prior to city council hearing or obtain a waiver from council for the easement to be located on adjacent building lots. A landscape plan was submitted as shown. Landscape street buffers are required in accord with UDC standards along arterial and collector streets in all zones and along local streets in the LO district. Qualified open space is required to be provided with development. A minimum of 9.66 acres is required. A total of 15.71 acres is proposed, exceeding UDC standards, and consists of common open space areas, parkways, linear open space, 50% of the arterial street buffer, and 100% of the collector street buffer. Site amenities are required to be provided with development. Based on the area of the development, a minimum of 15 amenity points are required. Amenities totaling 23 points are proposed, consisting of a tot lot, 2 pickleball courts, a half basketball court from the recreation activity area category, 3 picnic areas with covered seating on sites greater than 5,000 square feet from the quality of life category, 5-foot wide internal pathways from the pedestrian or bicycle circulation system category, and 2 bicycle repair stations from the multimodal category, exceeding UDC standards. The Pathways Master Plan depicts a 10-foot wide multi-use pathway along the east side of the Calkins lateral. Because the lateral is being relocated and piped, the Parks Department is amenable for a 10-foot wide detached pathway being provided along both sides of the north-south mid-mile collector street, Oakbriar, as an alternative. A 10-foot wide detached multi-use pathway is also required along West Amity Road. And if Pullman Avenue will be classified as a collector street, a 10-foot wide detached sidewalk should also be provided along both sides of that street in lieu of a 5-foot sidewalk. The pedestrian pathway proposed for this development this plan shows all the pedestrian connectivity through the development as well as along adjacent streets. Conceptual building elevations were submitted as shown for the single-family residential detached and townhomes that demonstrate the quality of development proposed. Conceptual elevations were not submitted for the proposed office development. Final design of the townhome structures and the offices are required to comply with the design standards in the Architectural Standards Manual. No letters of public testimony were received on this application. The applicant did submit a response to the staff report that they are in agreement with all of staff's recommended conditions of approval. Staff is recommending approval with the new development agreement and the conditions in the staff report. The applicant is here to present tonight. Thank you.
The applicant like to come forward, please? Good evening.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Chair, Commissioners, and staff. My name is Kelly Black with Bailey Engineering, located at 868 East Riverside Drive in Eagle, Idaho, 83616. And tonight we are presenting Story Rock, a 75-acre community in South Meridian. Our project includes a development agreement, modification, annexation, rezone, and preliminary plat. This 75-acre community is located south of Amity Road between Meridian Road and Linder Road. It's positioned near several developments, schools, and transportation corridors. The area is experiencing steady growth, as you can see on this slide. Story Rock is surrounded by existing and planned neighborhoods. The project is intended to complement surrounding development while providing connections that support the broader South Meridian area. The future land use map has this site designated as low-density residential on the west and medium-density residential on the east. And as you'll see when we review the preliminary plat, our overall project density is 4.27 dwelling units per acre. Story Rock will have 4 zoning districts across the site. So we have R4 on the west, followed by R8 going east, and then R15 on the east. We also are proposing a limited office area at the northeast corner. Together, these districts create a gradual transition from lower density development to more compact housing opportunities. So I want to talk a little bit more about that limited office. So at the northeast corner of the project, we had reserved space for limited office uses, and our intent for this proposed zoning was to accommodate the existing office building. And as staff mentioned, staff has recommended that this be zoned R15 rather than the proposed LO, and that the existing office use may continue as a legal non-conforming use within the R15 zone. And we are in agreement with this recommendation, and we will revise materials prior to council. So in looking at the preliminary plat, we are proposing 210 single-family detached lots, 31 cottage lots, those are also detached, 80 townhome lots, and then those 2 commercial lots. In total, the project includes 321 residential units. The mix of housing types responds directly to the comp plan policies, encouraging a variety of housing options while maintaining an overall density that is consistent with the future land use map. So this community is served by two primary access points, both off of Amity, that first one being Oakbriar Way on the west, and then the second Pullman Avenue on the east. The plan also includes stub street connections to the adjacent properties on the west and on the south. So one of the defining characteristics of Story Rock is its commitment to open space. The project provides approximately 15.7 acres of qualified open space. This represents nearly 21% of the site. This significantly exceeds the city's minimum requirement. Rather than concentrating the open space in one single area, residents will have access to recreational opportunities and amenities throughout the site. So the amenity package was designed to serve residents of all ages. We have 2 pickleball courts, a half basketball court, 3 covered picnic and gathering areas, bike repair stations, we have 2 of those, and we have a playground. The project exceeds the city's required amenity point system and provides a balanced mix of active and passive recreational opportunities. So in terms of phasing, this project is proposed to be built out in 5 phases. And as mentioned, staff has recommended that we revise our phasing plan and begin with phase 1 on the east to bring sewer from the east and connect to the church. And we agree with this recommendation, and we will revise our phasing plan accordingly. So in terms of walkability and pathways, we have continuous pathway networks linking open spaces, amenities, and future connections beyond the project boundary. The design again supports the comp plan goals related to walkability, neighborhood connectivity, and alternative transportation options. So now I really wanted to get into the vision of this site. So when we talk about the vision, we set it with the entry monument. And the Story Rock entry monument establishes a strong sense of identity for the community. And it will create a welcoming gateway while reflecting the character of the Treasure Valley. And diving more into the vision, we look at the community. And this slide illustrates the overall vision for Story Rock. The goal is to create a neighborhood that feels connected, attractive, and livable. The community is designed not simply as a collection of lots, but as a complete neighborhood that encourages interaction, recreation, and long-term neighborhood value. So as we look a little bit more at some of the amenities and what this community feels like, this is where neighbors meet. This is the basketball court, where you can have a spontaneous pickup game, and that the covered seating area beside that turns passerbyers into spectators, and then these spectators become friends. And then we have the playground. And the playground is where the youngest residents come to play, and the families can come to connect, also with seating areas nearby. And then, of course, we have pickleball. Pickleball is the fastest growing way for neighbors to become friends. It's easy to learn, it's social by nature, and it's fun to watch. We have 2 courts and covered seating areas to create a daily gathering opportunity that brings every age together over a friendly game. So now I wanted to talk about the product mix on this preliminary plat. And I wanted to talk first about the cottages. So with this project, we're introducing cottage homes. And these homes are unique. They're at 900 square feet. These homes are smaller footprint, but they come with big advantages. An opportunity to enter the housing market, as well as an opportunity to downsize. So it's meeting the needs of 2 different home buying groups. And as you can see here, we've shown some exterior shots as well as some interiors. And here I wanted to look at some of the single family homes that will be featured at Story Rock. So again, we have the single family detached, and then we have the single family attached products on the lower right of the screen. And we've also featured some of the materials that we've used and some of the colors that we've used in other subdivisions. And then, of course, I wanted to look at the interiors. As you can see, these homes, they're just really beautiful, and buyers really love them. And so these are some of the more recent ones that have been done by this builder. So in terms of next steps, we do agree with the staff recommendations, and we will do the following prior to council. We'll revise that LO zoning district to R15. We will revise that phasing plan, and then we will revise the preliminary plat and the common lots as recommended throughout the staff report. So in closing, I just want to say that Story Rock delivers a community consistent with the comp plan, a variety of housing opportunities, significant open space and amenities, strong pedestrian and transportation connectivity, and orderly growth. We respectfully request approval of the applications and appreciate the time and consideration of the commission. Thank you, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Commissioners, do we have any questions for Kelly right now? I think we're good. Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, do we have anyone signed up to testify?
Madam Chair, no one has signed up.
And no one on Zoom either? There's nobody on Zoom. Kelly, did you want to have any final words before we close the public hearing, or are you good? Okay. May I get a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and second to close the public hearing for Story Rock. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Smith.
I generally think this is a good development. I think I do have one point of feedback, and I hope this doesn't come across as a nitpick. It really is regarding the presentation itself. I did notice that the open space exhibits, they appeared to be AI generated, which I'm far from a Luddite. I know I'm not against AI necessarily. I would just caution, I feel like the point of elevations and exhibits and things like that is to show your intention and your vision. And I think in creating that, there was a little bit of inconsistency with how the open space interacted with the surrounding development that I was trying to visualize, but you're trying to imagine, okay, well, imagine those houses are different and more fitting to the design plan. So again, not a reason for me to oppose it, obviously. Just something I guess I would like to maybe see a little bit more of the actual designer's vision shown in those elevations in the future. But I understand it's a valuable tool.
I mean, they can adjust that for
Sure.
council.
Yeah, and that's, I guess, maybe a point of feedback or maybe a slight recommendation, but everyone has personal preferences. So.
There you go. I thought it was well designed. I like that, everybody's on a proper street and there's not a lot of private streets. They exceeded their amenities or their open space. So, and that area continues to grow. And I like the transition between R4 to R8, and they're amenable to changing LO to R15. So.
I like the proposal. It's well designed.
Yeah.
I agree. The proposal looks great. I'm looking forward to seeing it continue to grow. My only hope is that as you continue to build and grow this plan, my hope is that you are also communicating with any of the educational institutions and the Western Ada School District to make sure that, as it grows, the impact of the student increase ratio is, kind of kept at a steady pace as well.
Yeah, it looks like they're doing 5 phases, so it'll be a few years before all this builds out. So, all right, considering all staff, applicant, and public testimony, I move to recommend approval to City Council for file number H 2025-0025 as presented in the staff report for the hearing date of June 18th with no modifications.
Seconded.
It's been moved and second to approve Story Rock. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Before I ask for one more motion, I would like to thank Kurt Starman from our city attorney's office for 5 years of service. Thank you very much. We appreciate you being here. He is retiring, so to lead the good life. And with that, I will take one more motion.
Move to adjourn.
Seconded.
It's been moved and second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.